The American Claimant by Mark Twain. Chapter 1. It is a matchless morning in rural England. On a fair hill we see a majestic pile, the ivied walls and towers of Cholmondeley Castle, huge relic and witness of the baronial grandeurs of the Middle Ages. This is one of the seats of the Earl of Rossmore, K.G.G., C.B.K., C.M.G., etc., 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 who possesses 22,000 acres of English land, owns a parish in London with 2,000 houses on its lease roll, and struggles comfortably along on an income of £200,000 a year. The father and founder of this proud old line was William the Conqueror, his very self. The mother of it was not inventoried in history by name, she being merely a random episode and inconsequential, like the tanner's daughter of Falaise. In a breakfast room of the castle on this breezy fine morning there are two persons and the cooling remains of a deserted meal. One of these persons is the old lord, tall, erect, square-shouldered, wide-haired, stern-browed, a man who shows character in every feature, attitude, and movement, and carries his 70 years as easily as most men carry 50. The other person is his only son and heir, a dreamy-eyed young fellow who looks about 46 but is near 30. Candor, kindliness, honesty, sincerity, simplicity, modesty. It is easy to see that these are cardinal traits of his character. And so, when you have clothed him in the formidable components of his name, you somehow seem to be contemplating a lamb in armor. His name and style being the Honorable Kirkcudbright Llanover Marjoribank Sellers, Viscount Berkeley of Cholmondeley Castle, Warwickshire. Pronounced Kirkcudbright Llanover Marshbank Sellers, Viscount Berkeley of Cholmondeley Castle, Warwickshire. He is standing by a great window in an attitude suggestive of respectful attention to what his father is saying and equally respectful dissent from the positions and arguments offered. The father walks the floor as he talks, and his talk shows that his temper is away up towards summer heat. Soft-spirited as you are, Berkeley, I am quite aware that when you have once made up your mind to do a thing which your ideas of honor and justice require you to do, argument and reason are, for the time being, wasted upon you. Yes, and ridicule, persuasion, supplication, and command as well. To my mind, Father, if you will look at it without prejudice, without passion, you must concede that I am not doing a rash thing, a thoughtless, willful thing, with nothing substantial behind it to justify it. I did not create the American claimant to the earldom of Rossmore. I did not hunt for him, did not find him, did not obtrude him upon your notice. He found himself. He injected himself into our lives, and has made mine a purgatory for 10 years with his tiresome letters, his wordy reasonings, his acres of tedious evidence, which you would never read, would never consent to read. Yet, in common fairness, he was entitled to a hearing. That hearing would either prove he was the rightful earl, in which case our course would be plain, or it would prove that he wasn't, in which case our course would be equally plain. I have read his evidences, my lord. I have conned them well and studied them patiently and thoroughly. The chain seems to be complete, no important link wanting. I believe he is the rightful earl. And I, a usurper, a nameless pauper, a tramp, Consider what you are saying, sir. Father, if he is the rightful earl, could you, that fact being established, consent to keep his titles and his properties from him a day, an hour, a minute? You are talking nonsense. Nonsense. Lurid idiocy. Now, listen to me. I will make a confession, if you wish to call it by that name. I did not read those evidences because I had no occasion to. I was made familiar with them in the time of this claimant's father and of my own father 40 years ago. This fellow's predecessors have kept mine more or less familiar with them for close upon 150 years. The truth is, the rightful heir did go to America with the Fairfax heir or about the same time, but disappeared. Somewhere in the wilds of Virginia, got married and began to breed savages for the Claimant market. Wrote no letters home. Was supposed to be dead. His younger brother softly took possession. Presently the American did die, and straightway his eldest product put in his claim, by letter still in existence, and died before the uncle in possession found time, or maybe inclination, to answer. The infant son of that eldest product grew up, long interval, you see, and he took to writing letters and furnishing evidences. Well, successor after successor has done the same down to the present idiot. It was a succession of paupers. Not one of them was ever able to pay his passage to England or institute suit. The Fairfaxes kept their lordship alive, and so they have never lost it to this day, although they live in Maryland. Their friend lost his by his own neglect. You perceive now that the facts in this case bring us to precisely this result. Morally, the American tramp is rightful Earl of Rossmore. Legally, he has no more right than his dog. There now, are you satisfied? There was a pause. Then the son glanced at the crest carved in the great oaken mantel and said, with a regretful note in his voice, "Since the introduction of heraldic symbols, the motto of this house has been Sum Cuique, to every man his own. By your own intrepidly frank confession, my lord, it has become a sarcasm. If Simon Lathers, keep that exasperating name to yourself. For 10 years it has pestered my eye and tortured my ear, till at last my very footfalls timed themselves to the brain-racking rhythm of Simon Lathers, Simon Lathers, Simon Lathers. And now, to make its presence in my soul eternal, immortal, imperishable, you have resolved to what is it you have resolved to do? To go to Simon Lathers in America and change places with him. What? Deliver the reversion of the earldom into his hands? That is my purpose. Make this tremendous surrender without even trying the fantastic case in the Lords? Yes, with hesitation and some embarrassment. By all that is amazing, I believe you are insane, my son. See here, have you been training with that ass again, that radical, if you prefer the term, though the words are synonymous, Lord Tansey of Tolmache?" The son did not reply, and the old lord continued, "Yes, you confess, that puppy, that shame to his birth and caste, who holds all hereditary lordships and privilege to be usurpation, all nobility a tinsel sham, all aristocratic institutions a fraud, all inequalities in rank a legalized crime and an infamy, and no bread, honest bread, that a man doesn't earn by his own work. Work, ha!" And the old patrician brushed imaginary labor dirt from his white hands. "You have come to hold just those opinions yourself, I suppose," he added with a sneer. A faint flush in the younger man's cheek told that the shot had hit and hurt. But he answered with dignity, "I have. I say it without shame. I feel none. And now my reason for resolving to renounce my heirship without resistance is explained. I wish to retire from what to me is a false existence, a false position, and begin my life over again. Begin it right. Begin it on the level of mere manhood, unassisted by factitious aids, and succeed or fail by pure merit or the want of it. I will go to America, where all men are equal and all have an equal chance. I will live or die, sink or swim, win or lose, as just a man, that alone, and not a single helping god or fiction back of it." "Hear, hear." The two men looked each other steadily in the eye a moment or two. Then the elder one added musingly, "Absolutely crazy. Absolutely." After another silence, he said, as one who, long troubled by clouds, detects a ray of sunshine, "Well, there will be one satisfaction. Simon Lathers will come here to enter into his own, and I will drown him in the horse pond. The poor devil, always so humble in his letters, so pitiful, so deferential, so steeped in reverence for our great line and lofty station, so anxious to placate us, so prayerful for recognition as a relative, a bearer in his veins of our sacred blood, and withal so poor, so needy, so threadbare and pauper-shod as to raiment, so despised, so laughed at for his silly claimantship by the lewd American scum around him, the vulgar, crumb, and insufferable tramp, to read one of his cringing, nauseating letters. Well, this to a splendid flunky, all in inflamed plush and buttons of knee breeches as to his trunk, and a glinting white frostwork of ground-glass paste as to his head, who stood with his heels together and the upper half of him bent forward, a salver in his hands. 'The letters, my lord.' My lord took them, and the servant disappeared. Among the rest, an American letter. From the tramp, of course. Jove, but here's a change. No brown paper envelope this time, built from a shop and carrying the shop's advertisement in the corner. Oh no, a proper enough envelope, with a most ostentatiously broad mourning border, for his cap perhaps, since he was a bachelor, and fastened with red wax, a batch of it as big as a half-crown, and our crest for a seal, motto and all. And the ignorant, sprawling hand is gone. He sports a secretary, evidently. A secretary with a most confident swing and flourish to his pen. Oh, indeed, our fortunes are improving over there. Our meek tramp has undergone a metamorphosis. Read it, my lord, please." "Yes, this time I will, for the sake of the cat." 14,042 16th Street, Washington, May 2nd. My lord, it is my painful duty to announce to you that the head of our illustrious house is no more. The Right Honorable, the most noble, the most puissant Simon Lathers, Lord Rossmore, having departed this life, gone at last. This is unspeakably precious news, my son. At his seat in the environs of the hamlet of Duffy's Corners in the grand old state of Arkansas, and his twin brother with him, both being crushed by a log at a smokehouse raising, owing to carelessness on the part of all present, referable to overconfidence and gaiety induced by overplus of sour mash. Extolled by sour mash, whatever that may be, Berkeley? 5 days ago, with no sign of our ancient race present to close his eyes and inter him with the honors due his historic name and lofty rank. In fact, he is on the ice yet. Him and his brother. Friends took up a collection for it. But I shall take immediate occasion to have their noble remains shipped to you. Great heavens! For interment, with due ceremonies and solemnities, in the family vault or mausoleum of our house. Meantime, I shall put up a pair of hatchments on my house front, and you will, of course, do the same at your several seats. I have also to remind you that by this sad disaster, I, as sole heir, inherit and become seized of all the titles, honors, lands, and goods of our lamented relative, and must of necessity, painful as the duty is, shortly require at the bar of the Lord's restitution of these dignities and properties now illegally enjoyed by your titular lordship. With assurance of my distinguished consideration and warm cousinly regard, I remain your titular lordship's most obedient servant, Mulberry Sellers, Earl Rossmore. Immense! Come, this one's interesting. Why, Berkeley, his breezy impudence it's colossal. It's sublime. No, this one doesn't seem to cringe much. Cringe? Why, he doesn't know the meaning of the word. Hatchments. To commemorate that sniveling tramp and his fraternal duplicate, and he is going to send me the remains. The late claimant was a fool, but plainly this new one's a maniac. What a name, Mulberry Sellers. There's music for you, Simon Lathers, Mulberry Sellers. Mulberry Sellers, Simon Lathers. Sounds like machinery working and churning. Simon Lathers, Mulberry Sellers. Are you going? If I have your leave, Father. The old gentleman stood musing some time after his son was gone. This was his thought. He is a good boy and lovable. Let him take his own course, as it would profit nothing to oppose him, make things worse. In fact, my arguments and his aunt's persuasions have failed. Let us see what America can do for us. Let us see what equality in hard times can effect for the mental health of a brain-sick young British lord. Going to renounce his lordship and be a man. Yes,